107.9 CDY. This is Cadillac Unscripted. It is Saturday morning, and it's time for another half hour of local chat, sponsored by Independent Bank. Katy Huckle is with me, and we have the ultimate hyphenate here with us.
We sure
Attorney, judge, author.
JAG attorney.
Yes.
All right.
I mean, just the man's still a pretty fast distance runner and an incredible biker too.
No. I had to give up running last year, so I mountain bike now. But thank you very much.
All right, he swims too.
All right.
This is Jason Elmore, in case you didn't recognize the voice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Jason had such a crazy busy year campaigning. You know, how many households?
The homes of 20,000 residents, which are voters, which is about 11,000 homes. Yeah,
Door to door.
Door to door. It's quite a bit.
The kids, his mom, Alicia, everybody. Yeah. Anyway, and he managed to find time to write a book. I'm not kidding.
Well, actually, I wrote it before the campaign began. So, okay. But I finished it. So, yep.
Okay. You know, because he needs to add some things to his resume. See,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
The plate isn't full enough as it is.
No. Anyway, the name of the book is called The Field. And I told Jason I haven't finished it yet, but I'm in the thick of it. And I want to know, number one, a little bit about the artwork on the cover.
Sure.
Really pretty. It looks like a Northern Michigan place. But I want to know about your character development on this. Sure. And I want to start with what was the impetus to write the book?
I was never much of a reader myself and never much of a storyteller until I deployed to the Middle East in 2013, and I had young kids at home. And when I'd call or talk to them either by FaceTime or whatever, especially my teenage son, who's now 20, he answered every question, as we all know who has a teenage son, with one-word responses. Yep, nope, uh-huh.
See, that's where you're supposed to ask questions that aren't yes or no questions.
Open-ended.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
well, I would.
The man's a litigator. I mean, he knows how to ask
Yes.
questions.
I would, but then, I wanted to share something, have a conversation, and he was really adept at getting through the question as fast as possible. So I started writing little short stories, or I don't want to call it a blog, but using Facebook or something like that. And then the paper was really generous to print out a couple of my short stories, and I used it as a way to converse with my kids and tell them what was going on and share with them thoughts, because I spent a lot of time in the desert in a box. Mm-hmm. And so it was a way to put together my thoughts. So that's where writing started from. The book, I hate to say it, I hope, I don't want to be rude to my pastor, but sometimes I start taking notes when I'm at church.
Oh, you mean you're not listening to the sermon?
Well, I listen and I get something, but then, my mother-in-law or other people, they take notes and they write them in their notepad. Nobody questions them. But, of course, I pull out my phone. It looks like I'm surfing, but really I'm taking notes. So I would come up with little things, little quips or little ideas. And so that's where it came from. And I also have 3 pretty smart kids who ask a lot of questions. And so I was trying to find a way to put together some thoughts about religion and philosophy. And I was almost a philosophy minor in college. I was one class short. And so it's a way to put together some thoughts into a book and have my kids be able to ask questions but still be able to give them a direction. So anyways, what were your other questions there?
Your characters.
Yeah, yep. So everybody who writes a book, I think the first time or maybe every time, they put little bits and pieces of themselves, and there's bits and pieces of me in probably every single one. Mm-hmm. There is obviously a spiritual figure, and I of course suggest that it's God. And somebody asked me if that was partly me too. I said, well, I don't think that highly of myself.
Yeah, you don't have a God complex.
No. So the characters come from little things I've got. The book starts off with a young woman named Jess who's been through a very traumatic event in college, and she comes home and she makes a choice to take care of something. And obviously I've picked up that from a little bit of my work as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney and a regular attorney. I've also worked a lot as a military officer where I've had to deal with or work with soldiers who've been through sexual assaults and things like that. So I can pull a lot of that out from somebody. Mm-hmm. And I try to make it realistic. If you actually take the first chapter, you could find the abortion clinic and trace the highway steps to almost the house, and not an exact house, but a neighborhood, because I wanted to be able to feel it. Then there are two other main characters in the book, and the Jess doesn't come up until the very last couple pages. So if you're wondering, because you haven't finished it yet, you hear from her on the last 2 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
Yeah,
I like it that the mom takes naps. I thought I need more naps, Rich.
Yeah. Oh, and
Don't we all?
There's definitely part of me, because I think in that part they come home and they have grilled cheese and soup.
Tomato soup.
Yeah, and
That's what they do after church.
That's what we do after church. So that part was definitely autobiographical. But then the two main characters that come out of the woods and or they don't know the other one's there, and they meet underneath this tree. Those are a little bit of me, but they're also a little bit of a lot of other people just that I've gotten to know. And when I sit and talk with people about their perspectives of God and religion and philosophy and what this is all about, and so I kind of put that in it. I've done a lot of some divorce work, and so there's a little bit of stuff that in there that takes place there, and I just basically extrapolate it from just general experiences.
When people read this, are they going to see the Cadillac connection, or will they need to know you personally?
No, you'll see the Cadillac connection. I even say Wexford County in it, and I mention Lake Mitchell. The only character that appears in there as written is my dog, Jazz. So.
She's an amazing dog.
Okay.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, so
I have a little sideline on Jazz, because this is one of my favorite Elmore stories. So Alicia's a college runner, Dr. Elmore. Zach is a college pole vaulter. The whole family's athletic, okay? So the dog goes running with family members, and loves it. Mm-hmm. So Alicia, one Saturday morning, is going out on a run, okay? And she takes the dog to the trails over by the Career Tech Center that runners love, because of dirt and shock absorption, whatever. And the dog is just dragging. And the dog is kind of stopping and looking at her and kind of laying down. And so Alicia in the middle of this finds a way to get her some water, and so they can finish the run. They get done with the run and they get home, and Zach, the oldest, the college pole vaulter, looks at Alicia and says, "Mom, did you take Jazz for a run?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "Mom, she ran 8 miles with me this morning."
Oh.
It was a long day for Jazz.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah.
So back to the book.
So there are a couple other characters I just kind of create. One is a Pakistani military cadet, and you can find the mountains and stuff and the types of trees that they're involved with that part of the story. And obviously, I spent some time in the Middle East, and I've actually worked with some Pakistani military officers, either when I was deployed or in other schools, because other countries will send their soldiers and officers to our schools. And so I was able to pull a little bit out of my experiences there to create that character. And also, there's a young Korean girl in the character in the book, and again, that comes from people that I know just a little bit. So, anyways,
the graphic on the cover.
Sure. I wanted to involve local people wherever possible. On the back, for instance, is a author photograph, and that's taken by my daughter. She likes to take pictures, and she does pictures for the yearbook. And so she went out and took my picture, and we did a picture day, and that's where that comes from. And there's a background behind it with the red maple leaves, and the red maple tree is important in the book in the very beginning and the very end. And that's taken by a local artist through what's called light green lens. And that's Dino, well, it used to be Williams, but now Kohler. And the artist on the front is Charlie Thompson, who a lot of us know locally.
Love Charlie.
Yep. And I really wanted to get Charlie into it and get him to do the cover. So I gave him a copy of the manuscript, and he read it and came up with the cover. And a lot of the book takes place underneath a willow tree. And so I really wanted to capture the willow tree, and I think Charlie did a really good job with it, and I really appreciated his time. And he did it for free, so thank you very much, Charlie. Way too gracious, but and he wouldn't accept anything for it, so I really appreciate that. So yeah, it was really nice from the beginning to the end to have it be something with local people involved. And I really like obviously having my daughter go out and be involved in taking the picture. So she's got her name on the back of the book.
Awesome.
So, yep.
Let's talk about the spiritual side of
Sure.
this.
Yeah. Let's see. The best way to describe it is, I think we all ask questions, and what I have found in my experience. Well, let me give this example. Just recently, on Facebook, you don't do Facebook, but it'll pop up and show you memories of pictures and things you've done years ago.
Yeah.
And one of them popped up even just a couple weeks ago, and it was a picture of myself and a bunch of Army buddies and I when we were in the Middle East in what's called Diwania. Diwania is a retreat out into the desert into a tent, and it's just men. Sorry, but that's just the way it is over there. And just men are invited, and we were there with you're talking. First of all, even my Army buddies, we were a calico of colors. Different backgrounds. One of my best friends, Caesar's Puerto Rican, part of his family's from Costa Rica, and he's from Brooklyn.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Then you had Avi, who is Jewish and from Baltimore. And, another one of our buddies, Jerome, who is from Los Angeles. He's African-American, grew up in a relatively poor home. And now we're all lieutenant colonels and full-bird colonels and stuff like that. And we're out in the desert talking to people who are spending time with people who are from Iraq, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, different other countries. And so the point there is you spend a lot of time talking to other people about their own faiths and perceptions. And what I really liked about that experience was we never argued. And what I really see lately, all this is coming up after the book, I see a lot of contention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just am shocked by the judgment we pass all the time. Everybody loves to hit enter, and they love to pass judgment about whether you want to criticize the Democrats, you want to criticize the Republicans, you want to criticize this leader, that leader. Everybody loves, or seems to, at least lately, and I'm not saying everybody, but it just seems like we are at least inundated with a lot of negativity. And so the book is really about acceptance and understanding. And there might be some people who are very strong one way or the other and might go, I just don't agree with Jason's perspective. Perfectly okay. But I try to give away, at least for my kids, to start with the basis of, I believe this, there's only ever been one perfect person to walk this earth, and any of us him. I also believe that we, because he's so much more powerful, or whoever God is and whatever he or she looks like or it looks like, we cannot perceive it. So stop arguing about it, is really what the book is kind of about. And if you see it, when these two men enter this field, one of the chapters is called The Invitation, where they see each one of them sees a swarm of birds, and the birds land in the tree, and they go out there. And then there underneath the tree, there's a guy who looks like he walked off of an LL Bean catalog, and they sit down and have some important conversations. And these other little characters that I've mentioned come up, and they don't really become important until the last 10 pages, where you see them come to the field themselves, and you see what they see when they empty the field by themselves, and then you see everybody else who's leaving. And it's really hard to explain because I don't want to give it all away. And trees are important. I grew up on a Christmas tree farm, so trees are important.
Oh, yeah.
One person falls asleep underneath an arborvitae, which, by the way, is the arborvitae in my backyard. Another person falls asleep underneath a red maple tree, and that becomes very important, especially the color red, when she comes underneath the tree and sees the person walking them there. One's a ginkgo tree, and one's the big Himalayan cedar. So anyways, trees are important, people are important, and hopefully I tie it together well.
Okay, we're going to be back with more discussion about The Field, written by Jason Elmore.
Thank you.
It's Cadillac Unscripted, 1079 CDY, sponsored by Independent Bank. Cadillac Unscripted continues, 1079 CDY with our guest Jason Elmore. We're sponsored by Independent Bank. And Katie, go ahead and tee up your next question for Jason.
Well, I think what we're hearing, the undercurrent, is that Jason was seeing some broken things in the world and was trying to talk about acceptance and respect for others and their beliefs. And can we talk a little bit about the different trees and the characters?
So the idea is that when you come to the field, and I give a pretty good visual description of the field, you see what you need to see, and you see the one tree that's out in the middle. And my brother read the book this weekend, and he goes, "Jason, I know exactly which field you're talking about." And sure enough, it's a field that we...
No kidding?
Yeah, so we had a field on one of our Christmas tree farms
I love it.
when we didn't have the trees planted in it, we still had one tree out in the middle, and that was the field. So when you come to it, you see it, and you get invited by... Just getting the sense that you're invited out to the tree. You have no idea. The characters have no idea how they got there, why they're there. They just wake up and they're stumbling out of a forest. And they go out to the tree, and that's where they meet who in effect is God. And he answers questions for them. And one of the real main... and then when they leave, they realize that other people, they are seeing other people who enter the field and realize those people see nothing but themselves and the one tree. But they all see a different tree, depends on where they came from or what they need.
So are you telling us that we only see things through our experiences and what we know?
Right, and God reveals himself in a way that's accepting to us in our culture and where we are, if we're able and willing to listen, where we are at that place and time in our lives.
But you believe he's revealing himself all the time, and people just, okay.
And whether or not you choose to see it.
Okay.
And then when the people leave their trees, they find out they were never alone to begin with. There are literally hundreds of people who are leaving dozens and dozens of other trees with a character, God, underneath them, and each one of them, he looks different. So in other words, he's revealing himself all at the same time to all of us in the ways that we need to at that time in our lives in a way we can understand. And the real premise of the book, and I hate to give it all away, but I hope people go out and buy it and read it, is that there's a way of thinking about it. We can never truly understand what God is like or everything. So we should almost stop trying.
Okay.
I'm not saying we stop trying, but the point is we stop fighting about it. Okay. We should stop demanding that I'm right and you're wrong. And
respect each other's faiths. Okay.
And even when we respect, by the way, there's something interesting, right? When I respect another person's religion, often I'm saying, yeah, but mine's right and yours is still wrong.
Yeah,
and so
meaning you feel like lucky you. I respect that,
yeah.
And whereas it should just be more acceptance is the better word, isn't it?
I think so. And again, I think that whatever creator is out there, whatever you want to label him as, he's so complex that we can't understand him, and he reveals himself again at times when we need to. So, and by the way, in my book, God really likes Jolly Ranchers.
People.
Which, by the way, because there are lots of different Jolly Rancher flavors, right?
I like
See,
it.
there you go.
It's like a Rainbow
colors.
Ridge.
Yeah, I was going to do Werther's Originals, but they only have a couple flavors, and Jolly Ranchers, and sometimes they stick to your teeth. I don't know, but anyways, that's what I went with.
Is there a message of hope in this and redemption?
I think so. I really think so. In the last chapter, that's where Jess comes back into the story, and clearly we need to have a tree, something to pursue. Right, when the people come out of the forest, they need something to pursue, and that's why I think, somebody could say, "Well, geez, if you don't really know what it is, stop trying to figure out what God is like." No, you still need to have something to pursue. We still need to have a field. Some target out there, something down the road to pursue. And whether you are pursuing Christianity today or understanding it, and by the way, because God continues to throw challenges in our lives, and we continue to have challenges in our lives. And that's okay. You've got to still have something to pursue, a belief structure in which to pursue. So pick one, go with it. It's better to have a roadmap than to be wandering in the woods or in an empty field all by yourself. There, that's kind of the point.
Okay. Tell us here about your computer analogy, where we all know.
Well, yeah, and that one I wish I could remember the name of the philosopher. So he's current, and he talks about how most of us can only handle the desktop version of our computer screen. and I'm one of them. Don't ask me to program something. Don't ask me what all the zeros and ones look like behind it. I can never understand the matrix that way. So I just don't. I can't ever understand it. And the computer has the desktop versions and icons to help me walk through it. And very similarly, we have things in our lives that we can use, whether they're people, music, verses, Bibles, literature, things like that, and people, pastors, to help guide us along, to help us try to make sense of it. But in the end, I still can't tell you what happens behind that computer screen. And I'd go crazy trying to figure it out. So I just don't.
You said that we all like to hit enter.
Yeah.
Send.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
And is part of it.
We love to be right.
Okay.
And so you think about this. We all love to be right. And there's a reason, right? And that's how we group up to live with people who have like-minded cultures, because we all like to be right. And there's a good reason. It helps avoid danger. The more I learn, don't do this, I pass a judgment, don't go that way, it saves me from a danger. But the problem is we tend to get so confident in our own judgments that we forget other people's lives. Even like, for instance, you and I and Rich, we all live in the same town. We have a lot of things that are in common, so we might feel justified. I might feel justified to pass a judgment on Rich and something he does or says or believes and think, geez, I'm right. And Rich, why can't you think like me? We live in the same town. We've got so many of the same. We should see things exactly the same way. But the thing is I don't know what goes on in Rich's mind every day. I don't know what goes on in Katie's mind. And we tend to forget that we pass judgment too easily on what we see, and we always forget that we never know what's going on behind closed doors. Whatever's going on inside someone's head, those experiences, those intricacies that make us all who we are. Again, we all like to hit enter, pass judgment, boom, I'm right, you're wrong.
Is part of it the sentiment that my opinion's more important than yours? Is that part of it?
I think so, and we all want to be right. There's something rewarding about feeling like we're right and making, because we're also reassuring ourselves at the same time that I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. Well, we might be doing the right things for ourselves, but that's not always the right thing for other people. And so I guess it's a little bit a part of the book, but it's also a little bit of the other. Just what I personally think we need to acknowledge lately.
I can tell you that part of me in the very beginning thought, oh my, the journeys that we have all had.
Yeah.
And so when you could talk to someone and it looks like they've got the world by the tail, Rich, and maybe they've had trauma and drama in their lives and overcome it, Yeah.
Well, and I will also say that nowadays we all have our own personal narratives.
Yep.
And we all have our sources, our news sources that feed those narratives.
Sure.
And we have become intolerant to looking at other narratives that speak to other people.
Yeah. And that's really unfortunate. And so, again, and I started writing, like I said, when I was deployed, and I was really noticing how I saw life differently through the eyes of other people in a tent in the desert. And that's what got me to write, wanted to share stories with my kids, and that's really the impetus behind the book, is to get my kids to talk about things, learn about things, see things a little bit differently, even outside of Cadillac, which I love being here. Obviously, I returned here. But I wanted my kids to be able to have a base, I guess, on how to look at their own lives and look at other people, especially when they start to leave home and go to college.
Did the Army friends all get a copy of the book?
Yes. Okay. Actually, yes. I've got one heading off to Italy that will hopefully go out in the mail here the next couple days. I've got one going to Baltimore. Avi's a defense attorney in Baltimore. And the other one is heading out to Jerome, or we call him Duff. That'll go out to Duffy here pretty soon. He's retiring from the Army this year. So
will they see themselves in the book?
I think they will. They're going to see some of those conversations that we've had. Again, I think they'll see the Dionia conversations.
So I question, a bunch of lawyers, everybody was listening?
Well, no. Well, only two of us were lawyers. Oh. The other two were different, what we call MOSs, different types of officers. But we're all lieutenant colonels and colonels, so therefore we were all very opinionated and very talkative.
I see.
And
So would you have to have a timer on each of you, or what?
Yeah, it was almost a timer, or we'd have to signal our hands, but we were all pretty good about it. So, yeah. In fact, I talked to one of them just the other day and told him about the book and was reminding him about that day. And anyways.
So what's life like for you right now? I mean, things have settled down.
They've settled down. I can't say a whole lot about the job, my current job, only because there's certain things that a judge can't say. I can tell you this: with COVID right now, we're held up on the ability to do trials. How many people we can have in a courtroom, and that's having an impact on the ability to process cases.
I see.
But we're still working, still trying to do the best we can, still waiting for the health department to say we're good to go.
Okay.
But it's good, and I'm liking the job. It's really, as I've mentioned to other people who ask, I tell them it's weighty. Mm-hmm. That's the best word I can come up with. Weighty. Before I took the bench over the holidays, I'd go up there and on a weekend and just sit there in the courtroom. I'd just take in the old wood, how long the building's been there, the faces of the other 9 judges who've come before me, and how much respect I've had for them. So the word weighty was just the right word, and it's still there. And I'd say I really enjoy the job so far. So again, I'm very blessed.
What's next for Jason?
Right now I tell you, department lets us do trials.
Okay.
After that, I'm wrapping up my last year here in the Army.
Okay.
I retire here coming up pretty soon, so that'll be nice. Mm-hmm. I'm shrinking down a lot of my focus as a judge. There's only certain things we can do, like charity programs, certain limitations. So I've had to change a lot of those other activities, but. Right.
He put his time in the nonprofit world, let me tell you.
That's okay. But, so it's changing those things. And I've got 2 kids left at home. I need to spend a lot of time with them.
That's right.
And, as you know, with kids, COVID has made it really difficult for kids. Mm-hmm. They spend a lot of time at home, a lot of time in front of a screen, a lot of time in their own bedrooms.
They are social people. Kids are social.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this has been really rough.
It really is. They learn so much by interacting that, we just take it. Some of us are probably old enough. We want to stop interacting with people. I like going home.
I like it. Things a little more quiet now, don't you,
But
Rich?
it is true, though. Kids are social by nature, and this last 11 months has been extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's also hard to teach a kid who's not in a good place mentally.
Yep.
Oh, it sure is.
Another thing is I've written another book. I've completed the first rough draft, and that's a kid's book.
Okay.
So I need to find an illustrator. Hopefully I can get Charlie to do it, and I've come up with a couple of other ideas. And it's not a steal from Polar Express, but it does involve the Shea locomotive, and you can follow the book. One of my sons is in it. A couple of his buddies are in it, and you could follow the book. The train goes up to the cemetery on Halloween night, and you could follow the book and go, "Yep, there's the tombstone for the Eldridges. Yep, there's the Greggs over there." And it's
there's landmarks in it.
Yeah, and it's got some characters. The conductor's name is Mr. Diggins.
Oh, cool.
And the engineer is Mr. Crippen, who actually, by the way, designed the engine for the Shea locomotive.
Oh, it's got some history
in it.
And
it's got Mrs. Diggins in it, and she actually was a big fan of Halloween parties. Okay. And so I try to involve a lot of locals, and I've got some other local characters. I won't mention their names because I've got to get their permission yet. Mm-hmm. But I've got local business people who are in it. One person's got a barbecue stand. One person's making Viennese hot chocolate. You can probably guess who that might be. So,
larger than life, that person, I'll tell you.
So,
where do people go to get the field, Jason?
Well, you can get it, actually. They now have it in stock at Horizon Books here downtown Cadillac. I know they've got some more coming. I obviously am a big supporter of local businesses, and that's why I had local people involved in making the book and doing the design. But it's also available online, Amazon. It'll be available in ebook form. It's Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, a couple other pages. I've got a Facebook page that talks about it, lists where it's for sale. But right now, people can go down to Horizon Books, and I definitely encourage people to shop local whenever you can.
Will there be an audio book version of this at some point?
I don't know yet. I don't think
Okay.
so. But
Well, if there is, we want to do some of the voice work on it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's throw our hats in the ring.
You're saying that as if that was my next question.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that's my next question. He's a man of many talents.
Out of that, or I just like to. I don't sit still very well. So
He didn't nap in kindergarten. You know when all the kids napped, Rich?
Yes.
Not him.
Yeah.
It's called The Field, written by Jason Elmore. Go get it at Horizon Books, and thank you so much for your time.
hey, thank you for your time, and God bless.
Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank. Join us next week, same time, same station, for more local chat. Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY.